This is the bonus section podcast, episode number 61, How Structure Enhances Performance. Are you the type of person that knows you were meant for something greater in this lifetime, and that somewhere inside of you, there's just this bigger version of yourself trying to break free, but in spite of all your self-development, you just can't seem to find a way up and out? Well, then, hey, you're definitely in the right place. I'm Danny Griffin, the founder of the bonus section and the host of this podcast, and a person just like you trying to learn how to live the most fulfilling life possible. So to help you take immediate action to get moving in a better direction, if you want to sit down and think through it, we're going to take notes from each episode and post them for a short period of time at freethinkingtools.com, freethinkingtools.com. Literally, have at it. Take the notes. We'll put a couple episodes up at a time, a little subject there for you to think through. Just spend some time. Have a cup of coffee, a little cup of tea, whatever you like, maybe a drink. But take it easy and think through stuff for yourself, okay? All right, how structure enhances performance. And by the way, that's what's happening right here with this podcast. This podcast is extremely structured in the parts that you can't see. There's a formula in front of me. I have certain bullet points that I hit, and that's why I'm going to use this as an example in advance of telling you this to try to be transparent here. I have a subject, I have an intro, after the subject, and then I have 4 bullet points that I'll talk about, things that are easy for me to talk about. These are things that I either coach on or I think a lot about, so it's not really difficult. I have a sense of time. Over next to me is the timer on the recorder, so I have a sense that I don't want to be too much longer than 20 minutes max, sort of like that TED Talk type of time frame, and I'm in and out. See, that's structure. So don't sit here thinking that this is me free-forming and that this is just a gift and all that nonsense. Maybe I have some gifts for gab, sure, but not necessarily without this. And I'm going to tell you how. So how do I do this, and how do I think about this, and how you can apply these same structures to your life, your business, your sports, whatever it might be. Okay, first point. Structure, the minute you say it, sounds painful to the animal brain. When you say you need to have some structure in your life, the animal brain goes, oh my gosh, I just want to eat. I just want to sleep. I just want to survive. That's what your animal brain is wired to do, which is essentially survive, right? So that's the whole concept here. So ultimately, when the animal brain hears it, it sounds like work. And when it sounds like work, the animal brain, if it's not necessary, according to that animal brain, to eat and sleep and survive, then it shuts down. So you see, when somebody's teaching you or training you to be structured, what appears to be laziness is not really laziness. It's a survival mechanism that's in your brain. So until you train your brain that structure is not a bad thing, it's a normal human reaction to react that way if it sounds like work. Get that? See, having 5 kids and raising 5 kids and being a coach of many different types of people, the minute I want to bring structure in, a lot of them are already surviving and maybe surviving fairly well. You might even call it thriving. I wouldn't, because you don't really thrive without structure and really getting yourself to the highest level. So some people really are good hunters, good hunter-gatherers, like the lion, the king of the jungle, and they appear to be doing really well. But are they really super, super structured as well as they could be to thrive even more so? I don't know. But I'll make the argument humans aren't, having coached plenty of them and being one myself and looking at my performance and how do I enhance my performance in whatever it might be, especially these days as a parent, as a successful parent, hopefully, and as a successful business person. So the second point here is to realize that although it sounds painful to the animal brain, structure is really nothing more than an outline. Let that sink in for a second. Structure is nothing more than an outline. So all of us have had some level of schooling where there's something called a syllabus, right? And the syllabus is really an outline of what's going to happen in that class and what's important to learn. So think about a book. Think about a textbook. You get a textbook, and in that textbook, in the front of it, there's an outline. And there's an outline of the chapters and the key point or the keyword about that chapter. So, you know the concept of the Cliff Notes. Back in my day, they were Cliff Notes. I don't know what they're called now, but they're sort of the cheat sheet for a book. That you could go get the notes on the book, which was a condensed version of the book. I'm trying to think of the audio company that does that right now. There's a good audio book company out there that does just a quick summary of the book. And so really what it is nothing more than an outline of the book with the key points. Now, obviously, you're not going to experience the whole thing, right? You're not going to experience the whole book in its full form, but you can walk away with an understanding of the structure. That's what that is. It's just an outline. So the next time you look at an outline, go, oh, that's what he's talking about, structure. I like to refer to it as the skeleton, the wireframe, the bones upon which a better way is built. That's really what it is. So structure is nothing more than an outline, a bone frame, a framework, a wireframe. Any of those words, any of those terminologies, that's all structure is. It keeps our body from becoming, the scarecrow. We have a bone, right? We have a spine. That's the deal. So the next point here, moving through this pretty quickly because I really want to show you it's easy. And I'm reading from my structure. It's so much more difficult and painful to muscle through. Now, here's the key point. Let me go into my kids. When my kids are learning something and they see me as dad, and you come in and you try to bring this structure in, their animal brain shuts down quickly and they appear to be lazy even though they're not. They're just overwhelmed. It's just sort of like the overwhelm button. But yet, it's typically, when you're coaching your children, it's typically about trying to help them get through something they have to get through. School. So if you're in a class, you have to at least pass it. I mean, if you want to survive in your animal brain, you need to accept the bare minimum. That's a good point here, school. Interesting from a pass standpoint. Barely passing is barely surviving in a class. So to barely survive and barely pass, you have to adhere to at least the outline. But most kids will not do the homework. They will not sit down and have the capacity to consider that the teacher has provided an outline for them to basically cheat from, to learn the key components from there. To actually read the chapter with the outline in hand, it says when you get to this section, pay close attention. When you get to this one, pay close attention. It's the cheat sheet. I mean, no teacher's trying to, well, I shouldn't say no, that's an absolute statement. Most teachers aren't trying to hoodwink you so they can fail you out of the class. They're trying to lift you up and educate you to a higher level. So now, of course, we all learn differently. Some people take the structure like a duck to water, but most don't, especially when they're young. But if you're trying to muscle through the exercise, in other words, you wait all the way till the night before or the morning of, and you try to muscle your way through this, it's super painful. And in fact, you don't really survive, and you might fail that test, because you tried to leave it to the end to muscle through. So the irony is, what seemed to be super painful in the beginning, you actually replace it with something much more painful, which is procrastination, and then this anxiety-driven studying of that key point, those key points, only to go into the test and bomb it. See? It's absurd. It just doesn't make any logical sense to the brain. So if you can at least talk to your animal brain and say, you're not talking me off the basic structure. You're not talking me off of paying attention in class to the basic structure. You're not talking me off of doing my homework in at least a reasonable amount of time before the day of the test. You're not talking me off of those things. You're not going to tell me it's too much work and shut me down, because I know, and I'm becoming cognizant, that if I procrastinate this and I leave it to the end, I'm going to end up trying to muscle my way through, and that's going to devastate me. And this problem compounds itself. When you do that and you muscle through, and let's just say you fail the test, or it's an athletic event, you bomb, you're terrible, you're a ghost, you don't even look like you're on the team, it's a mess. because you're underprepared, you're not prepared, whatever it might be. That's where cognitive distortion now comes into play. So the animal brain tricked you into falling asleep on this work that you were supposed to do, not knowing that the structure would advance your ability to survive and really thrive. Now, the devil of this cognitive distortion comes rushing in and says, aha, see, and this is what exaggeration and cognitive distortion looks like. See, you're a failure. So you go from failing the event simply because you didn't know about structure. You fail the event, and now you make a global comment about yourself as a human that you're a failure and that you're not good at test taking. I'm just not. One of my kids said that to me the other day about the standardized test. Well, and he did great. He needed to do even better for the types of places he wants to go. But he just said, well, I guess I'm not a test taker. And it's like, what? That's a cognitive distortion. If you have never gone to a class that teaches you how to really take a standardized test, gives you an outline in a structure on how to take it, and then you practice against that outline, then you get coached and taught against your mistakes against that, then how could you ever say something like that? You just have never done the work in a structured way, period. You tried to muscle through in a muscle. Whoo, that was really good. But muscle is not good enough even when the performance is higher because it's robbing you of something. And that's the final point here. That structure, when you embrace it and you use it, will definitely release the greatest version of you. That's really the key point here. See, and again, I talk a lot about my kids because I'm consumed with them, or my clients, my real estate clients. It's the same thing. Let me go to my real estate clients. So I go into a business example because it's applicable. And all you young business types that are still in school and you're running online businesses, stop doing it on muscle. Look for an outline from somebody who's already done it successfully. Just look for the outline and start to bring some structure and learn about it. Even if you're the one putting the structured pieces of the puzzle and the syllabus together, that's what I have to do. As a quote-unquote entrepreneurial coach, in the context of real estate, for example, and I have an online website business and I have coaching and I have my brokerage, I have to come up with the syllabus and I have to continue to put that information in the right order and chunk it up so I can see the big pieces so that when I teach it, it's in its simplest form first before it's in its deepest. Now, what that's done for me is it has leveraged my time, because when you muscle through things, it takes much longer to do the same task that you could do in a structured way. Much longer. So now all of a sudden, you don't have any time. And now your cognitive distortion about time is, I don't have enough time to do all this. Yes, you do, but you're trying to muscle through it in an unstructured way. So of course it's taking more time. Of course your business is not doing as well as it could because you're spending too much time on one task because it's unstructured, because you're always in that mode of discovery. You're lost a lot of the time, even though the business might be doing sales and the business is surviving. The business might be surviving. And you might be saying, well, I'm doing fine. You're not doing fine. Your business is always on the precipice of failure because it's unstructured. So you can't begin to thrive and separate yourself from the alligators of cost and change. Cost and change are always chasing the business person, always trying to bite them by the tail, pull them back down and fail that business. See, most small businesses fail because they have zero structure. They have zero outline that they're following. They just show up one day and say, well, I like to, sell websites online, and they just start doing it on muscle. Eventually, if you keep doing things on muscle alone with no structure, the alligator catches you because you end up running in circles and he's running in a straight line. You got it? Okay, let's go back and summarize. How structure enhances performance is the subject in the bonus section today. The first point, as I read my structured 4 points in front of me, is 1, structure sounds painful to the animal brain. Be cognizant that when that word structure comes out, your animal brain goes, work, calories burnt, shut down, run away. The second point is structure, though, tell that animal brain, is nothing more than an outline. Be quiet. It's just a simple outline we're looking for. Third, It's so much more difficult and painful to actually muscle through anything, business, sports, school, without structure. It's way more difficult. And lastly, 4, structure will definitely release a much greater version of you and your performance. Much greater, because you're leveraging everything. Systematic approach, time, your focus gets better. Everything gets enhanced. Let me summarize it this way. When we hear that we need structure in our lives, we cringe, or worse, we will run away from the painful work that we perceive putting structure in place appears to be. The simple truth is that structure is nothing more than simple outlines for action steps that will release the highest level of your performance. Okay, remember, you can take immediate action to get moving in a better direction because we take all the notes from each episode and we post them at freethinkingtools.com. We leave a couple episodes up there at a time so you don't get overwhelmed and you have something to work on. Also, don't forget to subscribe to this podcast on iTunes, Spotify, or wherever you listen, or find us on any of our social media channels for the bonus section so that you don't miss out on any episodes. Also, would appreciate it if you join our mission of becoming people for others and share this content with somebody that you think might need it and like it, okay? Remember this, though. I say the same thing when I sign off all the time. Nobody's coming for you. Nobody. So go get to work on a plan for yourself and a better plan for your life. And we will see you in the next episode to help you do just that. Thanks again.